Well, this is a bit strange, Robbie.
Well. It's not a Monday night, and it's not just me and you, Carl.
No. But one thing is the same. Imperium have kicked us off. Lovely.
Of course, straight in there, isn't it? Hey, it's just what is it? It's just not an ounce of fat on that Thrasher, is there?
Yeah, Absolutely. We played it on the podcast a little while ago, didn't we? And we instantly thought it was like a party anthem.
It is, yeah.
Which is a bit like tonight, actually, because I'm on the drink, usually Monday, usually on the H2O, but I've got the beers in, I've got the plonk in the fridge, and we've also got a very handsome young guest with us as well.
Who's that?
The lockdown hair is gone.
It has. That's the bit. That's to make me look thinner.
So we can't have a UK Thrashers moshing the roof on special without the man himself.
How you doing, boys? All right?
Yeah, good. So Neil Brannigan, fuller of UK Thrashers, is here. We're going to chat through the recent Moshing the Roof on Volume 2 that we featured as our album of the fortnight, a honorary album, made it to the Hall of Fame, no doubt. All 30 songs made it to the Hall of Fame, and rightly so as well. For those that don't know, well, I'll tell you what, I won't say it. Let's let Neil kind of take it up there. You know, just we know what it's about. Most of the people listening, but if there's one or two out there that don't know, Neil, maybe fill them in. What is Moshing the Roof on Volume 2?
Okay. So, yeah, Moshing the Roof on Volume 2 is our second attempt at pulling together the most disorganised bunch of people in the world, mainly Thrashers, to get us music on time to release a double CD and raise some money for homeless charity shelter. Second year we've done it. This year was bigger and better than ever. Kind of just trying to give a little back to the wider community and do something to, through the noise that we love and the music that we love that kind of helps other people that, at the moment, and especially in the current last year, can't help themselves.
So why shelter, Neil? It could have been a whole host of charities that people could, quite easily give their money to. But why, again, did you choose shelter? You
can probably mostly blame our mate Cat Finch. I did, if you cast your wily ears back, I did a little tour of the UK and I did like 5 gigs on a trot, and I crashed in a van a couple of nights, and I crashed at Cats a night, and I went up to Scarborough to see Acid Rain and all that stuff. And while I was, the couple of nights I slept in a van on this cold, whatever it was, December morning, night, and got up in the middle of the night for a beer due whiz, I saw lots of people kind of sleeping rough and in the doorways, and it resonated with me. I was like, poor sods, fancy, I'm cold in the back of this van, and, I've got my beer overcoat on, and I've got, 3 duvets and a sleeping bag. And these poor fuckers are out there every night of the year like this, and they've got nowhere else to go. And it got me thinking that over the years, how many people I'd seen in that situation. I'd been, we're children of the night, really. We come out of gigs, Robbie, you come out with kind of beer mats tucked in your armpit, but we come out of these gigs and we see these people in doorways and in the corner of car parks, and it kind of resonated. I was like, shit, that's really bad, and I never really thought about it again. And then the night I stayed at Cat, I know, Cat did a lot of charity work, and she's part of a food bank, and all that sort of stuff. And she was talking about how bad it is, and that and I kind of was like, and that added a bit more fuel to the fire. And I'd been thinking about doing been thinking about doing a compilation album, because I'd always loved like your Metal Massacres and it's like, but who wants a charity album now? Everyone, if you want a charity album, you hit shuffle. You go to Thrash on Spotify and it's like, I really want to do something that promotes the UK grassroots thrash bands, but what's the point in doing just a charity album? So over the Christmas kind of 2 years ago, the worlds collided, and I woke up probably after too much beer again with this bright idea about, why don't we do this for charity? So I sent Kat a message and said, who would you do it for? And she said, well, it's got to be Shelter or Crisis. So a little bit of research and a bit of Googling, and thought, well, Shelter, it kind of does what it says on the tin, really. And the rest is kind of history.
Wow, that's a fantastic story, mate. And that's brilliant. And we love all the Shelter, and we love all of the charity as well. But one thing we also love is the celebration of UK thrash that it kind of holds within it.
Yeah, definitely. And it was, it's a bit. It's one of those things. It's a double-edged blade, I guess. Is that we're doing some great stuff, and everyone who gets involved can be really chuffed that they've help contribute a couple of K to charity, and that that all gives us that warm and fuzzy feeling. But at the end of the day, we're all a bit like, this is brilliant because it's promoting UK thrash and bands. Volume 1, people were coming out of Volume 1, and people who bought the CD or bought a download and coming back and saying, band X are my new favourite band. I would have never heard them if I hadn't got Mosh in the Roof on, and now I've gone onto Bandcamp and bought all their stuff, and and that's brilliant. And the fact that bands want to be part of it, people saw year 1, and when I went for year 2, anyone fancy doing it again, expecting piss off, we've been in lockdown, there's no way I'm gonna, I've made no money myself, I haven't even covered my own album costs, let alone to do yours. It was like, I got inundated with people wanting to be part of it, because I think they, hopefully people see the same thing, that they know I'm passionate, they know I'm not going to be disingenuous about what I put out there. Because if I don't like it, it's probably not going to get on there. And and every, these little bands, we put out bands who have never put anything out on any sort of media in the past. We did, like this year, we got Brody with his Acid for Blood. He's never even, with the first single he's ever put out, and he's on this album with bands like Elimination and Solitary and Virus, and it's really good way of bringing all these guys together, and it's they're all equal to me in that way, because none of them get preferential treatment. The album gets listened through, and we mix the band. The mix sounds different, so Fred doesn't sound really good after Bob, but he sounds brilliant after. So we can play around with the order, and they're all in it for the same reason, which is get a little bit of exposure. The bigger bands aren't as worried about the exposure; they're more to support, and the little bands are getting both. So it's I think it's really cool from that point of view.
Sorry, Robert, can you just do a quick timeline? You were saying about 1 finished, and then everyone kind of pitched in saying, I want to do it if you do it too. So when did you officially close 1, so to speak? And when did you officially start 2? When did you think, right, now is the time I've got to do work on number 2?
It was probably, let's have a look. So we released in April. So kind of by July, August time, I had maybe like half a dozen CDs left, and I was down to my last few. So and it's kind of going into the phase. I mean, I've still got probably got 50 CDs left, but I'm not pushing it as hard now. It's not going to be, otherwise people get immune to it, don't they? It's just noise, and it's like, oh God, is that bloke posting about his freaking compilation CD again? That kind of, you kind of have to let people go. And I'd already had a couple of people messaging me at the time, you're doing another one, we want to be involved in number 2. We missed out on number 1, can we be part of number 2? So there was about 4 or 5 bands already in the wings. And then this year, probably, must have been about maybe November, I started actually really reaching. I knew I was going to do it. It wasn't a case of are you or not. I'd already kind of mentally committed to the point of no return had happened. But kind of November time, I put an Instagram post on. Not really, to be honest, not really expecting much, because of those reasons I said before, that bands have had a shit year. If your way of paying for expensive studio time and keeping your equipment up to date and keeping your drummer in sticks and crayons is by gigging, then 2021 and 2020 have been shit for it, haven't they? So I kind of didn't expect a lot, but within minutes, I was only going to put 26 bands on, and suddenly I was doing 28, and then it kind of stretched to 30, and and then I started getting nervous, because you've only got 70 minutes runtime per CD, and if everyone had given me a 9-minute kind of thrash epic, I would have been in real trouble. So it's like I was going to people, can you off your album? You'll give me something off your existing album, aren't you? Yeah. that number 2's a real short, sharp fucking shocker. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, Thrashers there, yeah, that'd be brilliant. Because I was like bricking myself because the last thing I wanted to do is get to like the day before I go 71 minutes. Who's gonna get binned? So and it happened quite quick. Within a week of putting out the call for arms, I was at 30. I was at 28. And then I got approached by a couple of people that said, sorry, we missed it. Would you like us to be involved? We'd love to be involved again. One of those was solitary, so I wasn't going to say no because, Rich and the guys are brilliant. And, and the other person was Graham from Night Fighter, who said, I've got the first of my new tracks. The album's not going to be out for ages. I'll mix it for you and get it ready for you in time if you want it. And it's like, well, it's a brand new track, and brand new tracks is one of the things that makes it a bit of a discriminator. So yeah, I'd be stupid not to. How long is it, Graham? It's quite 2.5 minutes. You're in.
Yeah. Talking of so like the Night Fighter one there, I know we'll talk about individual songs possibly, but that closed the album out. And it's a vicious song. Is there any, when it comes to obviously compiling, we all compile our own playlists, compilations, you've got the proper job of compiling it. How, not necessarily Night Fighter, but how did the songs kind of find their own like order, or was it kind of pretty much, no, it's just a lottery, it's just a random thing?
A bit of a mixture of both. Some of it's logical. So I wanted something at the start that kicks things off with a real kind of, I wanted something new because I think we had 6 or 7 original or like non-available from other places or remixes or whatever. So I wanted something new because I thought the opening of the album should be something that's brand new. Because why are you turning it on if it's the album you've already heard and you can pick up and put that album in instead. Suicide Watch did the closer as side 1 because it's an instrumental, and instrumentals always used to finish side 1 of a vinyl. It's kind of, it was
controversial, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of my like 35-year-old vinyl, vinyl collecting logic is that it leads into a little break, doesn't it? A moment of, not that it's a calm track because it's actually a bit of a Megadeth inspired riff monster, but it's kind of, something without vocals sits quite nicely in there, still got the pace for it. And then, Big Gun opening up side 2 and Night Fighter. And let's start this as we mean to go on. This isn't about, having a nice gentle walk and, playing with the kids in the park or, music to do the Sunday dinner to. This is about, this is a thrash album. So I wanted to, again, finish with something that's going to put a rocket up your ass. So, yeah, and everything else was a mixed. It's some of it is, does it work? Obviously with 30 bands, they've all got a very different mixing style. Some have been mastered by different people. Yourself, if you're listening to a old school iPod, that you have like one song you're wanging the volume up to kind of a 50, and the next minute it's like because it's like a completely different level. So even though I volume mastered it to make sure we didn't have those peaks and troughs, I didn't want things to stand out like a dog's what's it. That, that's a really shit production. It's still a great track, but the production's not as good versus these guys have got money and have spent a lot of money on that production. And I wanted to make sure that it kind of in places it drifted, it not, I don't want to say it went bad, but because that's not what I mean. But it leads you towards a coarser, dirtier production, and then ramps back up to the clean, to the clean, and try and get that ebb and flow through the tracks, and then the rest of them, it was like, well, I need to balance it, so I need to have, I need a longer one on there and a shorter one on there, and have to play around with it. But so it's a little mixture of all of that. And
well, it flows fantastic. It really does. Just speaking as a fan, but also having spoken to people that have also got the album, it flows brilliantly. And you're going through kind of so many different styles of thrash as well. Whether that was part of your remit of picking these bands, or whether you just went, no, I'll have them. And by the way, here's a blackened thrash metal band. Here we got speed metal. Here we got a crossover band. Here we got a death metal band. You know, it really works because you really kind of covered the whole kind of spectrum of thrash metal that's in there, and it's brilliant, really.
Yeah, and it kind of hopefully it's a reflection on what we do on the site as well. You know, although it's UK Thrashers and Thrashers at the core, and we'll always, you know, and that's purely because of my own taste as much as anything. I'll always revert back to thrash as being, you know, if I had to do an interview for next week and I got offered a thrash band or a death metal band, I'm always going to take the thrash band because that's what we do. But you know, I'm like you guys, when thrash kind of disappeared a little bit at the early 90s, I went and did, you know, death metal and, you know, went down a bit of doom stuff and, you know.
So I didn't go down death metal. I realised that now doing death.
There you go, yeah. There's a reason for that. But you know what I mean? A lot of us did, though. A lot of thrashers, that was their next step. And, you know, they either went kind of completely out of thrash. And a lot of people went into like hardcore rave or, you know, loads of different genres, but most people who wanted to stay metal kind of went into death metal and did, you know, got into Cathedral because obviously, you know, and Anathema and Paradise Lost because they'd come kind of through that slightly more. So,
but that's kind of reflected in the album because I went more down the hardcore route, and I think that's reflected in here too.
Yeah, with bands like Sidewinder and, you know, and that's what it is. So, you know, Thrash to me isn't, although it is a genre, it's not wholly genre. It's a bit more attitude and kind of. That sounds really wank, but you know what I mean. It's a bit. it's just a bit more than being a, you know. It's not pop metal thrash. It's thrash has got quite a wide berth that you know jumps on these other genres and sits nicely and complements them, I guess.
No chance of an atmospheric post-black metal album next, Volume 3, Neil?
I'm not sure if I could ready to go deep.
The roof back on or whatever.
Yeah, deep and hard. Yeah, that's the Cathedral Roof album, raising money to put the roof on.
Save the Cathedral Steeple album.
So was it easier this time after doing the first one? Is it still the same ball ache, but with a kind of very much a sense of achievement once it was all done?
A bit of both. It was more difficult because there was more bands, and I'd set myself an expectation. So you know. There's no way I'm going to do something shitter next year than I do this year. You know what I mean? So there's always a self-inferred, I want to do it bigger and better and smarter. And obviously I've learned a lot over the last year, but the other side of it was easier. Last year I had to teach myself how to do mastering and, you know, flashing, you know, working out. So the volume things, there's lots of contacts I had to make for, you know, the guys at Cram Duplication to do my CDs. There's, you know, things like that. So that side of life was a lot easier because I didn't have to learn any of that stuff. But, you know, last year, Volume 1, Pilkington Sarge did my graphics. This year, an artist from Bristol, Janie, she did the art for me, but I, you know, with help from Liam from Hellfected, had to pull that art together and do the graphics, which is why it's fucked up because it's not meant to have that board around it, and that was my cock up. It was meant to be full screen, you know. So that, you know, so there was different stresses because of different things that wasn't planned on being done, or I hadn't done last time. So yeah, there was a bit of that, but it was more about, you know, I wanted to flog more copies. I wanted to get it wider and more people to see it. And, you know, yeah.
Can you just take us through a little bit of a step by step or blow by blow, if you like? So let's say I'm in a band. You've put the Instagram post out, and I've got a track. How I make contact, say I'm interested, and you say yes. Go on then. What happens from that point to when it gets on the CD as far as a band is concerned?
It kind of depends. If it's I've got this track and it's all finished, it was on our brand new EP, or it's going to be on our EP in the next couple of weeks. Would you like it? And that's probably a good, you know, 3/4, if not more, especially this year when, again, bands couldn't get in the studio. You know, originally I was promised, not that promise is the wrong word, I was offered more original, or advanced copies on this album. But because of the pandemic, because of the inability for bands to get in the studio, 100% understood why bands have had to turn around to me and say, look, Neil, I'm really sorry. You can have anything from the back catalogue you like, but I can't get into the studio to do these new tracks for you, which, not a problem with that in the slightest. And why would you? But, so most of those bands go, what do you need? What do you need from me? And I go in and I've drawn up like a mini contract, for want of a better term, which is on a page. I, Neil, on behalf of UK Thrashers, you, Tarquin, on behalf of Thrashy the band, whatever you're called.
Man, they're on the fucking CD, aren't
they? They're on the third disc. So we agree and it's nothing rocket science, but I promise not to use your music inappropriately. You promise to do what you can to support the charity, and and if you want to see the expenses, I promise to share them with you to make sure I'm not ripping anyone off, which is exactly the opposite to what happens, because it's usually me that runs out. It's anything that's not there comes out of my pocket. So so that's nice and easy. With that, they send me band photo, logo, EPKs, electronic press kits, for those of you who don't do reviews all the time. I know you boys know what, or a bio or all that sort of stuff. So we kind of do a Dropbox and people start dropping stuff into there that, helps me to shape what I'm going to say on social media, what I'm going to write in my own EPK, what I'm going to do for, talk about in press releases and all that sort of stuff. If everything's already ready, they then Dropbox me the WAV, and the WAV file is there, and that's then ready for me. So probably out of the 30, I probably had 20 of the WAVs before Christmas. They were already, maybe not quite, maybe 15, but it's somewhere up there. A lot of the bands go, I'm not going to get in the studio before April. This is what we've got. There was then some other bands that said, you can have this. I'll Dropbox it. Yeah, I'm hoping to get in the studio, but we may not quite make it. But then so you can revert back to this. So you've got something from us. And then there was the other bands that saying, Neil, you're going to have something new, and we're going to keep on riding. And then and those bands kind of delivered. And so for the next kind of 4, 5, 6 months, you're reminding people, don't forget, you're going to send me the song, and it's just cajoling. And obviously when after Christmas, and I think it was February this year when we started the social campaign, pre-sales go out, and that's where we really start ramping up. And, we're obviously tagging the bands in social media posts, and we're trying to then go into that whole annoy the crap out of people by posting about it 24 hours a day and, getting people sick to the backside of it. But, my pre-orders were amazing. I had, I probably had 100 CDs sold within the first 2 weeks, and 99% of those were people who bought last year. And probably 89% of those are club members. So, you kind of...
Fantastic. Sorry, I was going to ask another question, Robbie. Have you got one?
Yeah, I just wanted to know, obviously, we talked about the depth of the bands on there, but I think the strength of the output of the bands in there, these are all bands that are supposedly, not all, there's some well-established thrash bands in there. There's some bands that have been doing it for a long time, but there's also bands like you mentioned, the guy that the guy that Burn Die song, that one there, he's at,
Acid for Blood, yeah.
Okay, so someone that's at the very kind of almost like the start of the career, and then you've got the Viruses, the Solitaries, the Trapped in Purgatories that are at the other end as well. But there's a real kind of a strength in depth that I really kind of makes me positive about being part of a scene in the UK that is really, really strong. I saw a gig poster the other day, and it was somewhere at Colville. It was a festival in Colville, and there's Thrasherwolf, I think, are playing there, Hellfected. There's a band called Iron Pariah that are kind of a new metal band. And these bands are quite low down on the bill. And I'm thinking, Christ, the bands that are headlining that must be on their game that day, because these boys that are going to be opening up, the likes of Hellfected, Thrasherwolf, they are the kind of the face of UK thrash at the moment. So, it's a real kind of the strength of this album is showing that the quality of UK thrash is not just the big bands, which are still doing it. They're doing it great, but there's so much kind of energy and quality and creativity with some of these bands all the bands that you featured.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, there are bands that are recreating the sounds of the late 80s, and they're quite blatant about that. There's Exodus fanboys in there who just want to produce, but there's also guys who are, pushing the boundaries. With Temper Shop, for example, the stuff that Luke's putting out there is that's potentially got, the ability to go worldwide. That's not just local scene. That's that's taking something slightly different in the genre and going out the world. What Mike and the guys do in Scar by True, so there's bands that are so diverse, and there's bands that are like a comfort food that if you love thrash and you love that kind of thrash vibe, like Trapped in Purgatory, a band who have, restarted after 30 years with, I think, only one or two of the original members, but that's just pure unadulterated. I'll use the word simple, but I don't mean simple stupid. I mean it's just a comfort food of thrash for me, and it's great to see that strength, because you could go anywhere in the country at the moment and look on the bill and see one of those bands that's been on the last two albums, and know you're gonna have a good night because those guys are strong. And we're seeing that, you're seeing all the bands, the 0161 are about to do a big festival up in Manchester, and, half the bands on the bill have been on Moshing the Roof on. There's a something in Derby in August, September time. Again, half the bands have been on Moshing the Roof on, and there's other bands that I've already talking to who want to be on next year's Moshing the Roof on that I know are playing those gigs, and I was stupid enough not to ask this year. There's bands that that we all like, and I know there's people in the members who came to me afterwards, like, why didn't you ask me? And I was like, well, I thought you wouldn't be allowed. Oh, no, we could have done it. And it's like, oh, shit, And so there's always another band round the corner that I'm, and I want, again, next year to be bigger and better. I want some returning friends to do it. And I want, another breadth, another mix of other people as well to keep adding to that kind of big Moshing the Roof on family. And it might be people coming back from Volume 1 who've got new material, or it might be brand new bands because there's new bands popping up every 5 minutes. And, some of them are squeaky demo level and some of them are, really polished. And, it's great. You can't not be excited about how strong the UK thrash scene is. And some people slag it off, it's just repeating what we did back in, No, yeah. But what's wrong with that? Not everything has to reinvent itself.
Yeah, I think, again, I'll repeat what I've mentioned before, but I think it's just got to be fresh, hasn't it? And you mentioned Temper Shot. One thing you can say that is absolutely fresh as a daisy. There are bands that have mixed those two styles before. Yeah, of course there is. But Temper Shot sound absolutely fresh, as do so many of the other bands as well. And I think that's important, that if you are inspired and influenced by bands from 20, 30, 40 years ago, as long as it's fresh, it's going to be good. Yeah. If it's tired and laboured, it's going to be tired and laboured and, quite frankly, not very good. So I just think it's not rehashing, it's just keeping it fresh. And if it takes a new band to do that, then it's happened again and again and again and again. You could say that about the biggest bands in the world. Oasis are a freshened up version of the Beatles somewhat. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That could easily be the case. And everyone mentions them in the same circle. And you got a few guys that are influenced by Metallica on here, but it's a fresh Metallica. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And it's not, remembering now that, we're all getting old farts, even you two, these bands weren't around. I was chatting to, I've got a little chat group and I speak to the Blacklist and the Hellfected guys, and we were talking, they're going, what was your first gig? And I was like, Suicidal Tendencies in Birmingham in 1988 or whatever it was. And they're like, fucking hell, what's the best, what's the best gig? Clash of the Titans in NEC was, they're like,
we forget, because we've kind of lived this whole thrash generation, that these guys who were born in 2000, 2003, they've never seen any of this. This is all new. They're going back to like the Venoms and the early Metallica stuff. I want to play music like that, and it's new and it's fresh to them, because it's not like going, oh fucking hell, I heard that 35 years ago. It's like, I've never heard it. I've just that's my entry into thrash, is by going back, and so I think we forget that, especially the older, just repeating stuff we all did in 35 years ago. Well, yeah, but you lived it 35 years ago. These guys are living it now. And putting those fresh flavours in there, as you say, those new techniques and new skills, and, the ability to bring in, like the Tortured Demon lads, bringing in other genres. So, you're bringing in that kind of metalcore, thrashcore, I'm even going to say the dirty word, a little bit genty type stuff in there, but they're bringing in influences that, if you ask me, I'd tell you to fuck off. I don't want any of that in my bloody thrash. But actually, they do a really great job in it, and it sounds so vibrant and so youthful. And that's what we, if we don't promote those guys and get those guys up the ladder, then the scene's going to die with us old shites, because we just want to hear the songs we still love.
Well, I think they posted, didn't they, that they say, I think it was about 2 days ago, that they posted that it's a year to the day that they're going to be supporting Zentrex at the Underworld. Yeah.
And that's going to be amazing. I hope the guys are going to be on their game, because, if the Zentric lads have got those, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds coming up on them, and it's going to be, that's going to be a crazy night. That's another year of learning for the Tortured Demon guys. They're going to be absolutely on fire by then.
But I think it's so refreshing the bands are taking out these bands, and they're not just like resting on their laurels and going, oh, let's pick an easy route. Obviously, they need to sell tickets as well. So they know that possibly a bill with Tortured Demon on, they might pull a few Thrashers. Look at the Acid Rain gig down at Camden Underworld.
I was just about to say, obviously, Bangover and Temper Shot. Obviously, H has taken a bit of an interest in Temper Shot anyway. And I think that's a great mix, because I think you've got, I don't know, it just feels you've got everything in that, haven't you? You've got your old school, that we all love. We all loved going to an Acid Rain gig. You can't, you'll always have a good night, even in Southampton, if you go and see Acid Rain. But having that diversity, that kind of beer thrasher Bangover, who were on this one, of course, and then and then Luke and the Temper Shop guys. It's just. That night's going to be insane. If you're not smuggling out all the bar mats after that, Robbie, it's been a crap night.
I'll be hugging every taxi driver.
The world hide the fucking beer mats, because they're just going to go. They're going to go like fucking hotcakes. My photo will still be behind the bar. Anyway.
We need to, can we do a most wanted t-shirt that all the club members can wear in there?
Beer mat thief, we'll get that up. But you've got you're doing your little market stall down there, aren't you?
Yeah, Luke's managed to flutter his eyelids at H, and I've been allowed to set up shop. So, which is why I'm not pushing too many CDs, because hopefully I'd like some left on the table. So I've blagged through work. I've got a pop up being made, one of these pop up banner things. We call them grasshoppers. I don't know what they're called. So I'm just doing. I've got one of the guys in the art department drawing that up properly in the right. Pop that up. Have some CDs on the table, and hopefully sell a couple more and patches and and spread the word a little bit for Shelter. And we'll see. That'd be really cool. And
collection tin on there as well, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm always. It's always a bit weird, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people are only ever one paycheck away from needing Shelter's help. It always does kind of, I'd never want to feel too pushy about trying to get money out of people. And it's the same about asking bands for music and things like that. It's like, oh God, I've got to, I don't, these guys, I know a lot of these guys live hand to mouth. You know, they love his music, they're passionate his music, and they do shitty jobs because all they really want to be doing is music. And I'm asking them to give me shit for free, you know. And it's like, so I'm always really conscious about that because I don't want to raise money for Shelter that Shelter have to give them back.
Yeah, no.
But on the flip side, I mean, I've bought, as a result of moshing the roof on, I've bought T-shirts, I've bought, metal pins, I've bought various pieces of merch, and I know I won't be the only one. There'll be lots of people that have got in, feel like they're, into the band enough that they can get some physical merch. So hopefully there will be a bit of money being thrown at the band, whether it's, a physical CD of an album that's come out or a T-shirt. Yeah,
100%. And we always kind of try and actively, when we're not in the moshing the roof on selling run, we always support those. You'll always see us on the, social, especially on the Bandcamp Fridays and stuff. If any of the band's going to say, or the new albums are out, or, I'll always promote Bandcamp over seeing something on Spotify, or, and that's why I love doing the thing that we do for you, the Breaking Bandcamp, because actually, if you go to Bandcamp and you listen 2 or 3 times and it's a name your own price, I think Bandcamp have got some stats. Most people, even if it's free, will throw a quid in.
Yeah.
If it's $3.99, I'll just round it up to a 5. I've got a terrible habit of doing until the wife spots the debit card payment. But And I hope lots of other people do the same, is that I'll go and buy their back catalogue or the rest of the album, that one track that's on Moshing the Roof on, and then they'll a T-shirt comes up, and I try and support as many of the bands as I can myself. I've probably got merch from most of them if merch is available, which is possibly why my missus is so cross about our bank account. But anyway, it's like, that's all part of it. Is we touched on at the start, is finding bands you really love. If everyone goes off there and finds one band that they really like, we sold 200 copies, so 200, more than that, 230 copies or whatever it is. So if everyone finds one band on there they like and goes and buys their back catalogue and a T-shirt, it's, reciprocal, and the world's gone round and everything's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also like the Acid Rain, you go, right, I'm going to go and see Acid Rain. I've got Moshing the Roof on. The Tempest got supporting. Great. I know at least one song of theirs because it's on the album. So that's good. And Bang Over were, last year. Okay, that's going to be a good night. I know those 2 bands, and I may not like one band or the other, but I know who they are, and I've heard something, as opposed to, I've seen the logo. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've seen the logo but I haven't heard anything. Actually, the bands are supporting themselves. They're doing what I think is what should be done, which is nice and healthy, which is actually, the big band will take along some of the small, like Robbie was saying. Great to see some of these smaller bands getting on with the elder statesmen. And then, as you said, Neil, to refreshen everything up, as opposed to, which I always had a pet hate for, the Metallica saying, oh, yeah, we're going to take out Warrior's Soul on our arena tour. Well, fuck me. There's a thrash metal band, the scene that you fucking came from, who will die for that fucking spot for that half an hour, and you fucking turned your back on it. That's fucking out of order. Do you know what I mean? Give where you came from should be fucking supported, mate.
And I ask a lot of bands this when they come on the show and I do the interviews. That I do ask, I quite often ask them about, what, have you got, what's the opportunities of getting on a tour? How do you get out of your local area? And it does seem like a big thing now. A lot of these packages come over in the entirety, the municipal waste thing. They came over, there was 4 bands all travelling together. So there was no local spot, otherwise you have to start at 3:00 in the afternoon, so you've lost that local spot. But other bands do it really well, that kind of, I think Annihilator, and I guess, biggest UK thrash band now, aren't they? They're part of the UK Big Four. But
they're on next year's.
they're opening next year's album. Then they played. They had a local band on each of the venues. So they did like Riptide in Manchester. They did Illyrian when they played Wolverhampton. I can't remember who else. But you know what I mean? They tried to pick, and I think that's. If you can't take a young band on tour, at least give them an opening slot on your big. And I know you're paying to their home crowd, and Illyrian had probably played KK's 5 times in the same year, so it wasn't new to most. But there are people who are going to see Annihilator that wouldn't have gone to see Illyrian because they're throwbackers, you know, they're people that maybe aren't still into thrash but loved Annihilator back in the days, and they only know Alice in Hell and Never Neverland, but they see on a poster and they go, we're going to go to that. They see Illyrian on there as an opener, and then in a few months' time, Illyrian are headlining their own show. They go, oh, they played with Annihilator, I might go away, you know, and hopefully these kind of local bands aren't only playing to their own fans; they're hopefully widening their perimeter up a little bit. And I think that's what hopefully the album does as well. It's a safe place. You know, you might not have gone and listened to Temper Shot because there's 9 million other bands on Spotify. You might not have gone and listened to Torture Demon. You might not have gone and listened to, you know, Hellfected or Blacklist or, you know, whoever it is. You might not have gone and listened to them. But when they're all on a CD and you've thrown the CD in the car or in the machine, even if you go fucking 8-track X, I'm not going to say a number just in case I offend someone, but I'm going to ask, but at least you now have heard them, but you might go, fucking hell, that's brilliant. Who are they? Oh, I've seen Dissension's name everywhere, but I didn't know what they sounded like, or I don't even know how to pronounce Sepultura. I don't know Welsh. I don't know if that's, but you know what I mean. I don't know how you pronounce. I thought
they were called Spatula.
Spatula, yeah. Well, the way I spelt it on the CD, which I missed the L out. Who knows what they're called anymore? So I fucked up the spelling. But you know, I mean, you might not know what those bands sound like, but you've seen the logo around, and it all, and that hopefully that's one of the positives from the albums, really.
You mentioned Dissension. Sadly, they've gone on a bit of a hiatus, haven't they?
Yeah, I'm hoping I'm not the kiss of death this year because, I kind of...
What happened last year, did it?
Well, no, not that last year, but I lost at the start of this year. So one of the bands that were meant to be on the album was Militia, who were on album one. Oh, yeah. But they called it a day, with about 6 weeks, a month to go before I closed off the album. But and that's lucky enough how Trapped in Purgatory came on, because between when I got all the bands together, Trapped in Purgatory hadn't released anything, and they weren't, no one really knew who they were. And, but in that time afterwards, I'd made friends with John and Chris and everything. So we so they were my first point of call. Boys, I'm in the shit. Would you like to be involved? And straight away, within 10 minutes, I had the WAV file over and they were on the album. So it was great to do. But yeah, so it was a shame to lose the Militia lads. But obviously Brody, who we've mentioned a couple of times in Acid for Blood, was the original, one of the original guitarists in Militia. So you've still kind of kept within the family a little bit, and and extended that as well. But yeah, so it's kind of it's all go.
So we've had Imperium. Should we have a pick? A track?
Yeah, go for it. Who's picking?
Go on, Carl. You have a go.
Me?
Yeah.
Go for it,
well, you know who I want. You know again and again and again who I want.
Have they got 6 fingers and
Zentrix aren't on it?
Well, I've got to say, I mean, obviously, this is no disrespect to the other 29 as the band, because 29 bands on the album, but I loved Elimination. It was one of those things, it's just that sweet spot of thrash metal that I like, and it's rough as arseholes, but you can still hear absolutely everything. Do you know what I mean? It's clean, but it's dirty, and it's really in that nice sweet spot there. I think this song just kills it. In the Name of Violence just absolutely kills it.
On that note, let's play it. Ooh.
All you see is rage. Blood is violence.
Okay, that was
Back
Elimination in the Name of Violence, and we're back with Robbie and Carl and me.
And Carl has been moshing around his outside studio, hasn't he? He's been ripping things around, knocking things off the wall because he loves that track.
I do love that track. I just think it does what it says on the tin. They annihilate you.
And that's what you've done in your shed, isn't it? There's little Tykes cars and inflatable pools and everything going all over the place.
Yeah, hula hoops, antifreeze.
Is that what you're
box
drinking?
sets of the X-Files, box of Cronenbergs. All of this sort of shit is going on.
Hey,
and
maybe that's why your hangover was so bad the other day. You didn't mix the 1664 and the Cronenberg and the antifreeze up, did you?
I reckon my hangover would have been worse. Would have been less, sorry, if I had the antifreeze as opposed to the fucking Cronenberg. I don't know. In fact, I'm going to do a substitute. I'm going to drink the antifreeze, and then when my car frosts over, I'm going to stick fucking Cronenberg over it or something. I want to strip paint off of my banisters at fucking in my on my staircase or something, because fucking dreadful hangover. But Annihilation. Are they London boys?
Elimination,
sorry. Are they London boys?
They're Shrapnel's neck of the woods. They're Ipswich, Suffolk. That's why I was doing the high six local. You know, the boys were joking when they were on the show, saying that that's why that's why they can't find drummers, because they've all got 6 fingers and webbed toes. They find it quite difficult to play double bass.
Yeah, true. But I do. That's great. I'm desperate to go and see some live shows with them, because I just think that's a real kind of, as we were saying, weren't we, keeping it nice and fresh. That's as fresh as a daisy, that one.
Yeah, and they're in the middle of doing a full album as well. I know Neil and the guys posted not long back that they're working on a full album, so that'll be really
with a drummer.
I was going to say, with drummer.
I don't know. I'll Neil had me on his radio show, but I didn't get a chance to ask him any questions. So I will find out if they found someone or they're going to use a session. But to be honest, that track's so brilliant. I don't even know there's no drummer there.
No. You can tell with some bands when there's a programmed drums, but
it's not Godflesh.
That does not sound. No, it is absolutely sounds like a real acoustic kit on that one, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think we're going to use this segment for a bit of a what's next. What's next for Moshing the Roof On? Yeah.
Whoa. Well, probably be volume 3, won't it?
Are we not thinking live show? Would you like to do a live show? Is it?
Yeah. It's been spoken about. Obviously,
what's the vision for that? What would be your ideal vision for a live show, talk, whatever?
An urban festival in Wembley.
Yeah, I'll be on the Titty Malfuck Mel Campbell stage with all my bands. Yeah, I think what in my mind, what I'd like to do is over a couple of months do 4 or 5 gigs in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
With a couple of the local bands that have contributed to Volume 1 or Volume 2, and take some bands from somewhere else. So if we're
like
playing
cross-pollination, sort of thing,
exactly. So I don't know if we're gonna go and play. If we're gonna go and play in Manchester, we'd have maybe, I don't know, Tortured Demon and Steel Mage would be on the show, but I'd want to grab Temper Shot from London and Scar by Truth from Newcastle area, or Novichok, or and take those into there, and then I'd like to play one local. It'd be nice if they did gigs next to me. I'd like come and do Bristol or Cobblestones in Bridgewater, and then I'd get the Welsh bands over, Excursia and Sepultura and those guys over, and then bring some guys down from bring someone from like maybe Illyrium from the Midlands, although they come this way, and then one of the Jock bands, or get kind of Black Talon from the first album, or so it'd be really cool to try and use what we've got in the same way the album does, really, to get people to be heard by people that they might not get exposed to. Obviously that costs money, and that's kind of as we were kind of alluding to before. I don't want to say to band, do you want to come and do a charity album? Feel free to fill your own car up with petrol and meet me in a car park outside, in Bridgewater. It's only a 9.5 hours drive. You'll be fine. So it's got to be they've got to break even on it at least. You know, the guys that, you know, and then, you know, the guys have got to be at the point that they're going to get paid petrol money for whatever it is they do, you know, and so, but yeah, so that's kind of the vision. But I don't know. Mate, I'll take what they offered. If they want to, you know, if Bloodstock want to offer me the Metal to the Masses stage, I'll have that for a day. You know, Thursday on the Metal Masses stage, that'd be nice. I don't know if a promoter said, "Do you want to fancy doing something?" And, you know, and collaborate. I'd just really like to take it on the road and just do that. You know, what we do on album, but do it in, you know, in some sort of live venue. I just think it'd be really cool. But in reality, with the amount of backlog everyone's got of gigs, you know, the amount of rebooking that everyone's doing this year, it's probably going to be as part of Volume 3. I'd like to do something maybe next summer. You know, do an all day festival maybe. You know, that's the other one. I love the things like Full Thrash Assault that used to go on in the Snooty Fox in Wakefield, or I can't remember the name of the other festival, but there used to be another couple of, you know, over in fact, Norwich Way, those
Thrashosaurus,
you know, I'd love to be able to do something like that. And, you know, that'd be, you know, that'd be fucking awesome if we could do something to that scale. But hey, I know, you know, I know fuck all. I know fuck all about fuck all. I know fuck all about music. I know fuck all about putting an album out. I don't know fuck all about putting gigs on. But it'd still be really cool to, you know, to somehow make that happen.
But in terms of making it happen, you'll make it happen, and you know, with the same kind of enthusiasm that you've had with the CDs. But it's gonna have more of a captive audience at a kind of place like that, a festival, a one-day thing. Whereas going to see Temper Shot on a Wednesday night with Illyrian supporting and possibly Steel Mage, and, you know, regardless where they're from, you know, they're just three names. All the will in the world, you know, we love our music and we want to go out to gigs every night of the week. It's not physically possible. You know, I saw Bangover in Guildford 18 months ago. There must have been 10 people there, you know, if that. And it's shocking, really, because these bands are the bands we're talking about as like the you know, we're saying that they're like the new level of UK thrash. Whereas a one day, kind of one afternoon, captive audience festival, you know you're going to get people there. And no one's going to, well, I say no one's going to be out of pocket. It's, so long as it's run well, you're going to have people there that want to see the band.
Yeah, exactly.
What about? Sorry, Neil. Just what about sort of like a stage? You say Bloodstock. You know, that Bloodstock right up there. What about something like what's it? Uprising.
Yeah,
like hijacking because they do a day before, a day after, and the Saturday is at the whatever venue they decided, the big venue. Could you hijack or
Hey, who knows? You know what I mean? And it's one of these very small worlds, isn't it? You know, we know people, and we don't. You know, we know people by we do it in the band, in the club, don't we? You talk about things, and then you realise the band you're talking about, he's the bloke who's you're chatting to in the club about it. He's the guitarist or something. So hey, never say never. You know, some of these things, you know, it could happen. It could happen, but it's got to be the right time. And as I said, it's got to be, you know, after the last year and a half we've had, it's got to be bloody safe, because I don't, you know, and it's got to be, you know, it can't just be. If I'm going to do it, I want to feel like I've been involved with it. I don't want to kind of just, you know, slap my logo on something and say it's a Mosh in the Roof on festival. I want to feel like I've been, you know, had, and which is probably a promoter's worst nightmare, because here's this fucking amateur sticking his nose in and coming up with stupid ideas. But yeah, hey, I you know, we know the guys with the thrash world in the UK is very small, and social media and everything has made it even smaller. And you know. I know Robbie's mentioned it before, but you know, we can message people like H or Nige Rocket from Onslaught, or you know, Aaron from Shrapnel, and you know, we can message those guys and they interact with us muggles in a normal way.
Yeah.
And like 30 years ago, you would have never thought of that. I would have been sending a stamped addressed envelope to their management. You know, it's kind of like, and it's a different world. So yeah, build it and they will come and all that. We will make it happen.
And in some ways, I know we're going a bit off topic, but I still quite like that kind of that mystery of being able to, it's great for the club that we can message Scott Holderby and ask if he can write an intro, or Andy Sneap, and whilst he doesn't respond to us, but Scott,
he ignores it, doesn't it? Fuck Sabbath.
No, he's just been very articulate, because that's what he does with his album. It takes months to get. He's getting the post to perfection, Robbie, and then it will be sent to you.
No, but we got a classic coming up.
He's
anyway.
replacing all the drums with some programmed ones.
Whilst it's really easy and it's great, and everyone is onto social media at the moment, I still like that kind of mystery and that kind of, I'm the fan, they're the musician, and I like them as a musician. And there is that kind of, I know they're only same people. We all put our trousers on in the morning, or dress or skirt or whatever it is. We all are just a person, but I do like that kind of that separation between fan and musician.
It's nice to be a little bit starstruck, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's or talking to people, I think as you get more familiar with people, that becomes less of a, it's kind of, we mentioned H there, we probably know more about H's life than he does at times, because he's kind of, especially thank fuck he stopped TikTok, but, we kind of, you see a little window into his life. So we've got, and obviously I crewed for Scarborough, and we got Pete, and, so there's a really good relationship. But sometimes the bands, even though they're a bit possibly smaller than that, I still get it when I do interviews, especially a band I don't know that I really like their music. You still get a little bit of a butterfly in, when I did Ol for the Evil interview the other week, I've never met Ol, and Evil are a big deal. And you still get that, that little bit of a thing. And I think it's still a good thing to have. That's what being a fan's about, isn't it? Getting a little, you've got to have that little fanboy moment when, when you see bands that you kind of you look up to, and you admire what they kind of do.
But looking at just the album there, you kind of talking about admiring and looking up to. When you think of some of this, or when you hear some of the musicianship on here, I get certain things out of certain songs, and I think, wow, that's unbelievable. It's like might be just there's a particular part in the Tortured Demon song, in that Sufferers of the New Plague, and it's where the bloke singing just does this kind of this scream. It's about near the end, but it just kind of, this breakdown happens. It's like this kind of, I don't know what he does, but this.
Go on, do it.
Go on, right. I thought Robbie was going to burst into flame.
He was about to go for it. He was warming up. The gun was out the holster. Go on, do it.
But when I hear that, I just think, wow. And it kind of makes you think, yeah, you're the musician, I'm the fan. And that's what makes you that kind of so good at what you do. I do my job, what I do for a day, but you're doing what you do, and it's bloody good. So, that's where you kind of think, wow. And there's loads of bits on this album where you get that, whether it be a really hooky chorus, or it might be, real, the chug and gallop of, like, say, a Thrasherwolf song, or that immediate beefy riff that we heard at the start of that kind of Imperium song. There's so much that you can pick out from this, and that's what kind of makes you think, wow, yeah, I'm just the fan, and they're doing it, and they're doing it really well, and it's great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, a little bit like that is. I know it's going to the extreme, but I watched a documentary on Elton John, and I'm not a fan of Elton John whatsoever. I've never listened to one of his albums. I can barely listen to one of his songs, but I do quite like the guy. I think he's quite funny, and I like it that he's a huge. He's just massive, isn't he? People adore him and would put him right up there. And I saw him this documentary that I saw. He was walking through an airport, and he threw a right old Paddy. He was like, "I'm not fucking going out there. You said this," and he got a right. And I said, and my wife was saying, "Oh, that's we all have to walk through airports." And I went, No. This is Elton John. I don't want Elton John to be like a regular guy. I want him to say, hang around, if I'm going to an airport, there needs to be a fucking midget milking a fucking camel. Otherwise, I'm not fucking going out there. Fuck all of you lot. I'm Elton John. This is what I demand. I quite like that about the big stars. Do you know what I mean?
Are you still expecting big stars to demand ridiculous riders? You want I only want blue Smarties, yellow worms and cider from a small apple tree in the Greater Hinstanton area.
What I think that is one way to look at it. The other way of looking at it is I don't really want the Axl Roses and James Hetfields to go, yeah, I bought some milk for £1.20 the other day. I don't really want that conversation with that person, or to hear that about, oh yeah, they went and bought some bread. Well, did they? Fuck that. We all do that. These guys.
I want you to throw a television out of a window and.
Because I know I fucking would. At the moment, I'm putting it under something and trying to get it out fully intact so it can stay in my house so I can watch the telly on it. But if I had more tellies than I could know what to do with, yeah, fuck me. Wouldn't you want to throw one out the fucking window? I know I would.
And as normal, Carl has gone so far off topic, we never knew where to expect. Who'd have thought we would have discussed Elton John?
Well, yeah, that's true. All throwing tellies out. But I do think the guys from Thrasherwolf are throwing tellies out the window that they even can't afford. Do you know what I mean? They're just throwing them out there.
They're throwing walls out. They're throwing walls out, aren't they?
Yeah, let's throw it out there.
Going off topic, Man Across the Water is a cracking album. I know yeah.
Who's that by?
That's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons. It's by Elton John, as you called him. I think you said Elton.
No, I said Elton. It's the way I talks, mate. No. So what's the album called? Madman on the Water.
Anyway, yes. Should we move on?
Sounds fucking dreadful. What song do I know that's on that album?
I don't think you will.
Maybe none of them, which is why you've got a bad opinion of Elton John.
Yeah.
I only like him when he walks through airports. I don't want to go and fucking see him live. Fuck that.
That is potentially the campest thing you've ever said.
I want to see him walk through airports on a documentary. So let's talk about Moshing the Roof on 3 then. So you said you're going to change tact a little bit, or do you feel that you can change tact and, you don't really, it's going to come to you sort of thing, as in not in an arrogant sort of way, but you kind of feel that you've built up a bit of momentum that bands want to get involved in the next project, maybe?
Yeah. You got to be careful because you don't want to be, I don't want to come across as like, hey, we're a fucking big deal now. You need to impress me to be on my fucking album, because that's not the fucking case. I'll accept anybody, But I do, we were talking earlier on about, that one of the discriminators is having some new tracks. It's a really cool thing to have, and the Thrasherwolf song is brand new. The Temper Shot is a brand new remix. It's the first time they've ever been on CD. The Acid for Blood track's brand new. Night Fighter's brand. There's the Blacklist tracks. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying not to forget anybody, but there's a host of brand new tracks on, and really that's the honey trap of this album, is that even if Scarred by Truth, sorry, Mike, Scarred by Truth, those tracks are coming out over the next few weeks. Some came out the week of the same week of the album, but it was, some are coming out over the next weeks. Some aren't coming out till maybe the summer, a bit later. So I think for the fan, and that sounds really cheesy, but the fan of the album, one of the things is, if you could go through and get all those tracks and put them into a playlist from elsewhere, although when you take out, I'm doing it for charity, that it loses a bit of them. But when there's like half a dozen tracks on there that actually you ain't going to listen to that until August, or you're not going to hear that until next year, or they've never released this as a single, it was a B-side that they never released, or whatever else it is. So what I'd really like to do for the next one is grow that exclusivity a little bit more. And I'm hoping that, because people now trust me, because at the first year it was like, who is this freaking idiot? What is he doing? And I hope I've built enough relationship with a lot of these guys. And if I haven't built with these guys, there's, as I said before, it's a small world, so people know each other. And is this Branny guy all right? Is he going to fuck us over? Is he going to, and I'm hoping the answer is no. Although no, you never know. So I'd really like next year to try and have I'm not saying I want 30 exclusive tracks, because that's ridiculous, because it's all about recording cycles. But I'd like to push a few more. If we could have 10 exclusive tracks on there, I'd be pretty chuffed with that. I know, just things that are a little bit different, or and I said it doesn't have to be exclusive. It's only ever going to be on that album. But even if I can have it if you're going to release your album in June and I can then release one track in April, you can release it as a single the following week if you like. But it's really cool to have, it's great to create hype around, and that's what it's about. Because if I can create hype and create interest, people want to buy it, and most people go, well, I only really want that song, but it's only a tenner for the whole album, so I'm not going to buy, And I've only sold one song off the album as a song on its own digitally. Wow. Everyone else has bought the whole album.
Yeah.
So whoever came along and brought Imperium, the one song, it was like, but someone, hey, I'm taking I'm taking the mix. I find it quite amusing, but it's obviously they really wanted that track, and they've come to us and bought it, and that's really cool. If you only want to buy one track off me, and you want to pay £1.50 for one track or a tenner for a whole album,
that's your issue. Yeah,
but I'd like some more of those exclusives if I could. Unfortunately this year we were trying to do a collaboration album. So the Hellfected, the Hellfected, the Blacklist, and the Thrasherwolf guys were trying to do a cross band, UK Thrashers, all stars, I think we were kind of jokingly called it, and they were going to get people in to do guest solos, and just because of COVID it never happened. But if I could have something like that on there, as I don't know,
that would spearhead it nicely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and the Hellfected lads were trying to do me a single, and then they went through kind of lineup issues and things like that. So Liam's on a promise to give me something new and fresh next year. Otherwise I'll cut his balls off. So that's all really good. But there's I've got 3 bands who have already offered tracks for next year, and they're all saying it won't, it'll either be a different version that's going on our album, or it won't be on the album. It'll be something we were going to do as a B-side later on that you can have. So, and for me, that's a sweet spot, isn't it? And hopefully for you guys in the Webosphere, that's the bit that really excites you. That's the opening track on here is the brand new Blacklist single. And they're not releasing it till the week after next. I'm going to listen to it moshing the roof on 2 weeks early, and and hopefully it builds hype that when the guys do release it, you've already heard a track off the new album, and you want to go and buy the whole album. It goes back to that, the reciprocal benefit of support moshing the roof on, support this, and hopefully good things will happen to you because people will come and buy your album when you release it.
Hopefully, Chris from Saucerside will have some new stuff by then. That'll be good.
Yeah, when he finishes educating himself, I think he's got a couple of months left of uni, and he'll be there. Him and the guys, and they're exactly the sort of band that I know if we get the cycle right, and it's all about timing. It is, I can't say please don't release your new album in February because I want the new track in April. I'm still going to have plenty of those tracks that are out there and available, but it'd just be really nice if we can try and balance.
What about? Sorry, go on. Oh, yes. No.
Without naming names, okay, or you can name as many names as you want. Is there any bands out there that you are kind of got your kind of post-it note up and their name is on your post-it notes, kind of thinking I need them, or is it kind of you just seeing how it goes?
A little mix of both. The Madder Side guys.
Okay.
They're going in the studio this year. I don't know.
They went away and then came back again.
They're another band that they kind of formed. They got a bit of a groundswell. They broke up, and they've got that one song Death March that you guys have played on the. I've played quite a few times. Providing that keeps going with a full head of steam, I'd love it because that Death March is brilliant. That's a ripper. So those guys. Tom from Devastator. you know, love to have those guys on. You know, that was the band I said I should have asked because you know, I spoke to Tom afterwards. He goes, well, you could have had something from us. And the problem is, and this is part of the learning curve, and it's kind of quite a complex thing, and we've kind of discussed about, when does being on a label mean you don't own your own music anymore? And when, like, so I've been really lucky on this song. I got permission from Metalville. Solitary went to Metalville and said, you know, this is a cause we support. They'd obviously released their track Catharsis, which was all about the homelessness problem themselves. The previous track they gave me, they were kind of self-releasing or on independent, so they didn't have to ask permission. But this time they went to Metalville and asked permission, and Metalville came back within an hour and said yes. You know, it was that quick. Obviously, Coke and Virus got combat permission. But that's
a well respect to those two organisations for doing that, because that is fantastic, isn't it?
But you know, as I've kind of got to know a little bit more, and again, it's part of that learning curve as I do more stuff for the podcast and things like that. A lot of these bands, even though they're on labels, the labels are only releasing the physical merchandise. You know, the labels are investing in helping them get physical, but they don't own the music, the copyright. You know, I've got the imagination of how it used to be, I guess, and how the big bands are. And, you know, like your Solitaries and your Acid Rains and your Onslaughts and people like that are on a label, which means the label have bought the rights to all that music, and you've got to go through copyright prescriptions and all that lot. And I never wanted to get tied up in that. I don't want letters from lawyers that I promise. And then, you know, that's why I've never done Spotify, because I don't want to get caught in royalties and all that other sort of stuff. But actually, I think maybe I'm living in 1989 where big labels sign up, that I don't think it's the same as that anymore. And you know, and so I might be a bit cheekier next time. I might ask, you know, if Aaron's listening, I'd love a shrapnel track on there, you know.
Yeah,
fuck me, yeah. There's things like that I might be a bit ballsier and a bit cheekier next time and ask, you know, you can know. But also, I don't want to go and just fill it up with UK stars. I want to make sure that I still want it to be, you know, the place where the first time Steel Mage had something physical was on Mosh in the Roof On. The first time Acid for Blood had it was Mosh in the Roof On. You know, the first, you know, Black, you know, all these bands. I'm going to sound like the Queen. I named this ship, but we've launched careers, and that's not in a kind of a self-serving way, but we've hopefully given some of these bands the first step onto being recognised by their peers, and I don't want to lose that, because it's really, you know, any record label can go and do another Metal Massacre or another, you know, and decide to go into contractual negotiations and put 10 bands from big labels onto a CD. That's not what it's about. But there's bands that we all love in the UK that it'd be really cool to have a part of this. So I might be cheeky and go and ask. You can only be told to fuck off so many times, can't you?
Yeah, no, with that's true. No problem with that at all. But I just wanted to I don't know how you would say. I mean, obviously you would have a bigger, a more informed idea about this. Let's say band Tortured Demon, they are now going on and they are going to be fully record labelled up, and they're going to be untouchable maybe. What about bands making like that, sort of like knocking out like a cover version? How does that complicate matters as far as, we could, you know, we've recorded 10 songs and we'll smash out a song for Mosh in the Roof On. It's going to be a rough, ready, one-take special cover version of whatever, and we'll give it to you. Does that cause more problems than it solves?
I think it does. Again, it's, you know, in my lack of knowledge, but, you know, my understanding of with that, you know, in fact, you could mentioning the Shrapnel guys again. You know, they knocked out that brilliant cover of Sodom the other week.
Saw as a law, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they need permission from Sodom to play their music, and you know, I mean, that's a well out. You know, I'm sure some clever chap will tell me how it works. I've got a bit of an understanding of some sort of copyright because of, you know, I've always been really worried about being stung on the podcast for playing something and getting taken to court. And I know we've spoken about, you shouldn't really use that, but you can use 30 seconds if you're doing it for a review and all that sort of. So, but I don't know where cover songs sit really, because the original owner has a right for you, for any monies raised, or at least a contribution. And I think if you listen back to Talking Bollocks and things, H had to go to Suzanne Vega and get permission to do a cover version, and there must be some sort of contractual permissional. I don't know if that's word of mouth contract or if it's something drawn up by some overpaid sharp suit legal lizard. But I don't know. I really don't know. It's one thing playing a cover track live, but yeah.
I just think that'd be really great, wouldn't it? To break the album up slightly, even more, would be a tune that by a band that has knocked it out specially for you. I just think that would be quite special. But you're right. You don't really want to go your day in court because of that, do you? No,
exactly. And the other thing, obviously, that's been suggested is someone suggested that CD3 could be international bands. It's like, it's like what part of fuck off do you not understand? If you think I'm going to try and coordinate 45 bands, you can think again.
That is official, because that was going to be another question. I'm sorry, I'm taking up all your question time, Robbie. We've got friends with lots of bands that are of the level that we're talking about with Moshing the Roof on, and they are international. They are some in Germany, aren't they? Some in South America and so on. You wouldn't consider those?
Never say never, but I don't know. It's a bit of a tangible, isn't it? It's like, it goes back to the whole charity thing. It's UK bands supporting a UK charity to support the UK homelessness charity. If I was going to do if I was going to go all Bob Geldof and try and raise some money to
give us your fucking money.
Maybe that's next year's. But if that was the case and it was for an international cause, if it was for a kind of a problem, a drought or a kind of natural disaster that we were trying to raise something for a third party, I think that makes more sense. And I could go and grab the guys in, Ultimate Power Corrupts, and I can go and grab the guy, some of the, all these bands that we know through the club, and, you could probably go, would you do, and we'd do something like that. But I think this is kind of a little bit insular for the UK, and it's part of what it is about why I set up the show in the first place, and the website and the social it's actually about promoting the UK scene. The charities are a lovely flip side, isn't it? And so it gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling. But actually, my heart and my passion is about growing the UK scene and making sure that people in the UK scene are seen, and they're not not laughed at and ridiculed, and in unless it's by me, and that's fine. But it's kind of I want to give them that little bit of a showcase, if for what it's worth, and it's debatable how big a showcase that is, but that's what it's about, really. Is about that, that kind of, and that probably limits the audience. It probably means I'm only going to sell, I'm never going to sell millions of CDs all around the world. But that's okay. I think we sold about 30 international copies this year. So, about half a dozen went to the States, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany. So that, they are going, they are going, but, when the cause is so central to the kind of the UK psyche, it's hard to reciprocate that unless you went to a big international charity, I think.
Absolutely. Should we have some music then?
Let's have a choice from Robbie, shall we?
Yeah, because Robbie's been almost silent. Go on, Robbie.
I haven't been allowed, have I?
To be fair, with me and you talking, he ain't got much chance, has he?
Yeah.
Right. Have you got any Elton John?
Robbie, shut up. You talk too much, mate. You talk too much, mate.
Yeah. So we're not going to have any Elton John. Okay. Well, I'll choose something off Moshing the Roof on. Well, it could. I mean, for me, it could be that such is the strength in all of the 30 tracks. I mean, I just find something in all of them. I've been listening to it regularly. I know, in the Iron Maiden Daily that we're all part of and we're passionate about. And someone made a suggestion. What are your top 3 kind of albums of the year so far? And the thing is, there's just so much that I have kind of picked up on this year in terms of what I like. It's very hard to make a top 3, and I'm hearing something all the time, something different. I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I like that, I like this, I like that. And it's like this on your album. This Moshing the Roof On album could quite easily, in terms of how much I've listened to an album, this would be up there with any album in terms of how much I've listened to it. It's been constantly in my van CD player. It's been on my Spotify. So yeah, getting back to, I mean, I'm going to go for Dead Before Mourning, The Surgeon in Black.
Excellent choice.
Mary, Annie, Elizabeth, Catherine, Alice, Mary Kelly, 6 little whores, glad to be alive. One side was up to Jack and then there are 5. I'm Red Jack, Springfield Jack, Jack from hell, from hell, from hell, from hell. Not the good shepherd, not the Prince of Peace, Jack the Ripper.
back. So once again, a carriage leaves from the west of town, and he's heading east. So lock your doors and live in fear. The mist draws in, and Jack is here.
Okay, yeah, Dead Before Mourning. That was The Surgeon in Black. And I've put gaffer tape over Branny and Carl there, so I've got 30 seconds. And do not even get out of that gaffer tape, boys. Yeah, that was my choice. It could have been could have been a handful of tracks on the strength of this CD. But I just love the fact that there's some songs on this album that are just so immediate. You know, you've got something like Novichok that is just like straight away, it's there. It's just, it's a thrash banger straight away. But then you've got a song like this, Dead Before Mourning. Slight contrast in that it has a little introduction. It might be a little bit of a vocal kind of piece at the beginning, a bit like that kind of Acid for Blood, the Burn Die. You know, they're really setting the scene. There's an atmospheric. And I love the kind of the characteristics going on with this Dead Before Mourning song. It's about, you know, obviously Jack the Ripper, and it's real kind of sets the tone, and it takes a while to get into it, but when it does, it chugs along. I think as someone said when it was reviewed, it chugs along nicely, and it really does. So yeah, it could have chosen a few, but I thought that one would vary it up a bit.
And they're local lads to us, mate, aren't they?
Local boys, and you can hear that as well. Sometimes I think, you know, if you're listening to, not that you would be listening to, but some people might choose to listen to pop punk. And if you did, then, you know, you don't know if they're from England, Wales, America, Jamaica, you know, wherever, because that vocal is that very kind of transatlantic style. Whereas this, you can hear that they're very much an English, you know, a Southern English band. And it's great that bands are singing and being as they are. It's not trying to be an American band or, you know, a German band or whoever. They're just being themselves. And you can hear that in the vocals, you know, whether it be in the spoken word or whether it be in the sung vocals. And it's great.
I've never had those guys on the show, so I'm hoping that, you know, there's an excuse to grab them on, because you know, they're slightly mature. I don't know, they're not the key, one of the younger bands on the album. Okay. So, you know, at least from the picture. So I really don't know much about them, but I definitely want to get them in the show over the coming months. Another, you know, on my long list of people to try and grab at some point and kind of find out a little bit about their superhero backstories.
And were they easy to get hold of for the album in dealing with bands? You know, and that's the thing, you know, dealing with bands. How easy is it? I know we touched upon it, but, you know, take, for example, without highlighting, but Dead Before Mourning, you know, you said you haven't had them on the show, but you've obviously had some communication with them.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember, you know, obviously 30 bands to try and cipher them through, but as they don't strike out as being a pain in the arse, they must have been fairly easy to deal with. I think they were one of the bands that went, oh yeah, we've got this, we're going to do this track, here's your form, here's your track, here's your graphics, here's your picture, here's your logo, just tag us in, cheers mate. Yeah. You know, and that was kind of, and it was easy as that, and, you know, and probably, you know, 60-70% of the bands, it's exactly like that. You know, it is pretty, you know, once they've agreed they're going to do it, it's all pretty transactional, and, you know, so yeah, it's there's no the only person I ever have to chase is Mike Todd, because he's always the last to finish editing, and he now sees it as a pride. You know, that's his pride and joy. Even if he's not last getting me material, I have to tell him he is, because otherwise he thinks he's failed.
There you go. Well, there's the trick, isn't it, Mike? We're waiting on you, mate. Even if no one else has got their material in, Mike, we're waiting on you. He'll smash it in, and then you go, do you know what? Scarred by Truth, first one on the door. Lovely.
But you know what, Mike?
Yeah, so Mike Todd's kind of prides himself now in being the last person to submit his track. So even when he's not the last, we let him think he is, just because it makes him feel happy to be the one that's kept me on tenterhooks for longest. He likes adding grey hair into my life.
Well, you say he's the last, but on the T90, Branny, he was the first. We did a T90 for the club. 12 members, most active members that were on your CD from Moshing the Roof on Volume 2. We approached them to see if they could take part in the feature that we do once a fortnight for the club. where they come up with, normally it'd be one person comes up with 10 songs, but we thought, no, one person comes up with one song and it'll make the playlist, the compilation. And Mike Todd was first up. His was I Live, You Die, Flotsam and Jetsam.
Can I just say, this is a bit deja vu. I've kind of feel like I've been here before, but yeah, go on, carry on. Sorry.
So, yeah, it's a good way to kick off. We did two sides, side A, side B, and it formed a nice break because obviously what we were doing was 2 or 3 reviews a day for Moshing the Roof on for the fortnight. So it just kind of varied it up a bit because we kind of suspended normal club practice, didn't we, and club features. So it varied it up a bit.
I think it was nice. I think it was nice that the bands that we were talking about, we'd mentioned, we'd reviewed Illyrian the day before, and then Asa comes in and talks about, he chooses Silosis and why he's chosen Silosis. And it's quite a good insight into where these guys have come from. Mike was the same, we know he's a massive Flots fan, and, and it's nice to see where either how diverse, how different they are to the song that they choose, or actually that you can hear something that's maybe pulled through a little bit.
I have to say they were all just fantastic as well. All of the musicians that I approached, and they are all active members. And this is a great thing that they're not just there for their kind of promotion of their bands. They're there also to kind of enjoy the club, which is really heartening for myself and no doubt for Carl, that people want to engage in the club, want to take part in the features, and it's not just for the kind of promotion of their bands. If they get something for their band out of the club, brilliant. But if they're just commenting and liking posts as well because they want to be there, then it's great as well.
And we like that as well. So they get something out of it. They get a song on or an album on. Well, we're all Thrash fans, so why wouldn't we? Just because you've made it and you're promoting it, great. And I think that's so good. Like Neil said, that the scene is small in the respect that we are a close-knit community. I'd like to say that we're more close-knit than small, but yeah, definitely close-knit. And it's a case of, if no one else is going to help our scene, we'll just fucking do it ourselves. And if that's a case of, I've got some music, would you stick it on? I think it's pretty cool. Let's see who else thinks it's pretty cool then, because we are the ones who are listening to this music every day. And we are I think, the best judges of that. Do you know what I mean? As far as thrash metal is concerned, and certainly UK thrash metal, I think we are the best judges. The club members, who, whether in a band or not, are the best judges of that, aren't they? Because we listen to it.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the, the nice things about the club on Facebook. You go I'm on a lot of different Facebook sites, and I end up muting them because a lot of them are non-stop self-promotion, and the benefit is obviously no one can post and start a thread on the club with, unless it's one of you two. So there's less people just listen to my podcast, listen to my music, so you don't get any of that, and I think that makes it, you're there to be part of the community and not there to sell your soul. And I think that's what makes it really nice. And I know you guys work hard to give as many people shouts outs as you can. And, as the club's got bigger, that's got even harder. And, those of us who kind of appreciate that bigger scene don't want to take up all the time. It's like, no, don't talk about, I've got fuck all useful to say this week. Go and talk about, because there's loads more great shit going on from the wider scene. And I think that comes across in the group. And I think that's why it's a night, we kind of jokingly call it the kind of the nicest thrash metal site on Facebook. But I think that's true, because you're not, without blowing smoke up your two arses, you're not getting that constant bombardment of people trying to fucking ram it down your throat.
Yeah, this is great. I'm about to have a wank, mate. It's great. Another one.
Turn your video off, Carl. Turn your video off.
No, you're witnessing it.
But you know what I mean? Facebook, all these bands are working hard to promote themselves, and sometimes it gets too much. and it does feel like, we fuck off. And I'm as guilty about it. When I was flogging the album, I'm fucking everywhere. It's like, without bell end with the bloody charity album, please piss off for 5 minutes. But hopefully, you're still a safe place, and we don't need to do that. But everyone still gets a little bit in the limelight.
I do think it was it was probably a quieter week, a quieter fortnight than we'd normally have, but it's because it's a UK-centric album, isn't it? And whilst we are predominantly a UK members club, we do have a hell of a lot of members that actively engage in the club, in the thrash metal album, the Fortnight Club, that are from abroad, that aren't not just UK. But there's no way we wouldn't. If we could turn the clock back and someone said, "Would you put in another album in there instead of this?" Not at all. If it's raising the awareness of homelessness, not only in the UK, but it might be raising awareness of homeless elsewhere. The fact that bands are putting their name to an album about homelessness, albeit that the money is going to a UK-based charity. Absolutely, we wouldn't change a thing, would we, Carl? Because
No.
And it's just the fact that the UK bands that are putting their name to it are getting some promotion as well. If it's a quiet week in the club for 2 weeks, so be it.
You've enjoyed a bit of peace and quiet, haven't you? It's been like having a summer holiday.
It's like having a little break, yeah.
Well, I think this is a good way to explain exactly what happened. I mean, because we put the shout out, would you like to review a track to the members? And we got a host of guys going, yeah, I'm up for that, I'm up for that, I'm up for that. And it kind of worked out almost perfectly that everyone would do 2 each. We kind of, a little bit like you, Brandy, with the band. It was like, right, I'm not sure, I'm up for it, Robbie's up for it by default. I kind of elected him. I kind of elected you. I kind of elected Mr. Bolton. And I've gone, right, because I know Neil Bolton pretty much reviewed every song when we done this the first time for Mosh and Roof on 1. So it was kind of right, you're all in. That we if only us, if I put the call out, put the back signal up, and no one responds, we will do all 30 tracks. And if that's 5 or 6 each, I think we're all up for doing it. And I think that would have been a yes. But then to have so many other people just come in, members go, yeah, I'll do a track. And it just made it so cool. And so I put the bat signal up. We sorted it all out. We had one kind of meeting like this, didn't we, almost, for a better words, where we said, well, we'll do this, and we'll do this. And then that's how the week is going to go, or the fortnight is going to go. We had one of those meetings and pretty much everything fell into place. My big fear was we're going to ask the members to do it and they're not going to review it, or we're going to be constantly, look, your review is up next. It's in 2 days' time. Where's your review? The day that you, Neil, that you put your opening statement out on the Thursday, we had 28 of the tracks reviewed.
Yeah.
And not only that, verified by you and scheduled to go up.
Yeah. And then we titivated and improved on some of those. Not that they were bad, but I think a couple of people who did some extremely funny reviews realised that maybe they should talk about the music.
Yeah, but the enthusiasm was unbelievable, and the camaraderie that we had was fucking brilliant. I'd love to get a photo of all of us together in one room saying, this is the review team for this particular album.
That messenger chat we had was probably, that for a couple of weeks, that Facebook messenger group that we had with all the reviewers was the most, that made our Iron Maiden Daily look like a little quiet place, didn't it? It was It was like being thrown into the lion's den, and thought there was some randomness going on. And you were going, can you just extract all the reviews from that? No, it's like there's been about 5,000 posts this morning.
we should mention the reviewers then. Rich Tricky Hudson, he undertook some 2 reviews. He of Heavy Claw, possibly on the next volume 3 album, Neil, no doubt.
He's on the show in the next couple of weeks. I've got
fantastic. Yeah, Gareth Pugh, of course, fantastic writer, as is Paul Hutchins, and Hutch stepped up to the mark and did an extra couple of reviews as well, so that was really appreciated. Graham Meldrum, Darren, obviously he would step up because he's the nicest guy in the world ever.
Rob, yeah.
Asa, and this is what's great, Asa that's involved in the CD as well, that kind of got on board as well and wrote some reviews of Illyrian.
Mm. Not reviews of Illyrian. He didn't review his own band, did he?
No.
We wouldn't let him mark his own homework.
Andrew Matthews, we had John Wigg, we had Dylan Jones, Jamie Kinghorn, Kevin Adamson, we had yourself, Neil, and Craig Cooper as well. So it's a big thanks to all those guys. Like Carl said, you know, the back call went out and the reviews were in pretty much, you know, instantly. It was amazing.
I think I got away without reviewing anything. I think I just had to do some Weasley words at the start and finish of it all.
Yeah, well, you did. You did the intro and the outro.
Yeah, no, that was good because it's like otherwise it's like choosing out your favourite children, which one to talk to. Yeah. It was good. Like last year, I felt really guilty, but it was nice not having to give my judgment on any of them because I love you all equally, children.
No, and I will give a shout out to Mr. Bilby, who we did include, but there was a communication breakdown. I think that's what it was as far as Messenger was concerned. And when I asked him for his reviews, he said, I wasn't aware that I needed to do any. So I was like...
He muted our fucking Facebook chat because he couldn't deal with all the shit that was going on.
Well, maybe. But and I want to do a special shout out to John Deary, who, when he saw that the members, I think he must have missed the post when I put the bat signal up, he then said, if there's any songs going, I'm quite happy to do some. And I said, look, we've got all of them done apart from 2. And I just want to give the guy enough time to write them if he indeed is writing. And I made a bit of a mistake where I thought I had about 4 or 5 days before those songs came up. When I had that conversation on Messenger with John Deary, I then looked and it was the next day and I was like, oh, shit, I need to get these reviews done. And that's when Paul Hutch stood up and said, if you need those 2 done, give me an hour and I will do them. And I didn't want to burden John with it. And I knew that Paul would relish in that challenge of getting some words out in that kind of short space of time, which he actually absolutely hit on the mark.
Yeah, and the benefit was he'd already reviewed it for Musipedia of Metal as well, so he'd spent a lot of time with the album by then. So he was. And Hutch he's a review machine anyway, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. So I gave it to the machine and he absolutely produced. But what we will talk about in a little bit with my live housekeeping, John Deary is going to be the first gentleman by default and gets the first pick of what I'm going to say. That statement will make sense a bit later on when we talk about it later on. But thanks to all the reviewers for being so prompt, so funny, so enthusiastic. It was a great... And I think everyone was a little bit, oh, is that it? I thought this was going to go on and on and on and on. You were so efficient. It didn't go on. It was like a matter of 72 hours and it was done.
Yeah, and that goes double from me. You know, it's all, you know, it's not my work, but, you know what I mean? I'm kind of as the kind of collator, I'm always scared of putting it out there and people go, fucking hell, I hate, you know, but no one did that. Everyone, you know, loved everything that they got dished out by the lucky dip of reviews. And, you know, I couldn't be happier. And, you know, as everyone knows, I shared them all via my social feeds and the bands loved it, you know, and we're getting retweets from the bands about what had gone out. And again, that's what it's all about. You know, that sharing, you know, if you can't buy merch, if you can't, you know, buy a physical CD, you know, sharing a band's as important as anything, and sharing positive reviews with your mates is the best thing in the world to help bands grow, really.
Rob, do you want to run down the T90, mate?
Absolutely. While we're here, I wanted to just make sure that we do give the guys a thank you anyway. So we mentioned that Mike chose I Live, You Die as a starter from Flotsam and Jetsam. We then had John... Death. Yeah, Flot Till Death. We had John Beavis, who went for Agent Thrash, Dustbolt. They're in the Hall of Fame in the club. Yeah. And... yeah, fantastic. Really, once they get going, they really do get rip Dustbolt. We then Luke from Temper Shot. He went for Bad Omen, Megadeth. Not a normal choice of a, you know, if someone said, what song are you going to choose from Megadeth? Well, would it be that? Possibly not. But what a great song it was to come up with. Really cracker. You then had Tyler from Blacklist. He went Burned at the Stake for a band that I had not heard of, Morbid Saint. But when you listen to it, it was a great, great song. And it really varied up the playlist here. You know, it was a real kind of blackened, you know, dirty thrash song. This was almost death-like, but it was cracking. Liam from Bolt Thrower, not from Bolt Thrower, Liam from Hellfected. Liam from Hellfected. I thought he would go for a Bolt Thrower song, but he went for Lack of Comprehension from Death, which was, again, a great inclusion. And then closing things off is a great end to side A. Chris from Sorticide, A Subtle Induction from Dark Angel.
From who, sorry?
I said Dark Angel. Dark Angel.
Okay. Yeah, what a great collection of songs there. Again, how a T90 should be. Something old, something borrowed, something new, something blue, all the rest of it. Fucking great.
Then side B, cracking on with side B. Ben from Imperium, he chose an absolute stormer to kick things off, Hit the Lights. What a way to start a side A. Coke from Virus, In the Name of the Father and the Gun from Lars Rocket as well. A band that have influenced Virus from, you know, and this was a great thing. I was able to communicate with all these people and they were sending the reasons as to why they've chosen these songs. And it was just really interesting and really enlightening as to why they've chosen these songs. And it was brilliant. Asa from Illyrian, he went for Apparitions by Carl's favourite man, Silosis.
Thank you, PD.
Adrian from Day of Wrath, he went for Culture Decay by Heart Attack. Quite an unknown, well, not unknown band, but a lesser known band. But that's a great thing. It kind of unearths a lot of people's hidden gems in this. Then you had Daniel from Thrasherwolf. He went for Enemy of God, Creator. And then finally, kicking things to finish things off, Joe from Tortured Demon, Aesthetics of Hate, Machine Head. So rounding things off there. It's a real perfectly formed T90 that. And it was great that all those guys involved in the Moshing the Roof on were quite happy to put their name to a song and give the reasons for. And it just made some really interesting listening on that Friday evening.
Definitely. And great that the concept worked with the side A and side B for a T90. That's maybe we should continue that. You've got to do a side A and a side B maybe.
It goes back to what we were saying about how to position on the album, doesn't it? You know, that actually takes a little bit of thought, and it's not.
Yeah.
Not a scattergun.
No, I mean, you know, when you think about it, you know, something like Hit the Lights, it's an album starter, isn't it? So
you've got to put it at the front of something, haven't you?
Yeah. So no, absolutely, and you kind of you feel invested into it. You don't just go, well, there's 10 songs, take them. You know, you kind of pick a running order, and you're kind of a bit geeky about it, and that's what we're all here because we are a little bit geeky about our music that we love. So yeah, it's great to be part of it, and thank you guys if you're listening to taking part in it.
Thank you very much. It was a great playlist to listen to.
Which is up on the Spotify and on the YouTube.
Quality. Do you want me to do my bit of live housekeeping now?
Go for it, mate.
So, I mean, we stopped the show and I mean that as in pretty much all of when we had our little meeting, we kind of said that we would pretty much stop everything apart from maybe a couple of features, regular features, and everything else would be dedicated to songs on this band. And I know that's quite extreme because it was quite full on because there's 30 songs, isn't there? And I wanted to give each band as far as the club was concerned, a little bit of the spotlight. So we featured each song. But I did think that it's Moshing the Roof on is an important album to us. I know it is obviously to you, Neil. So I thought going forward, I quite liked the members' input dissecting each track on the album. And because it's an important album, we stopped everything else. So we kind of like, stop the show, we'll stop it, and we will just focus on this. So how about, and I think I did mention it in the podcast before, that when an important release comes out, a Metallica, I know Exodus, when was Blood In, Blood Out? 5 years ago, maybe? I don't know.
More than that now, isn't it?
Yeah, when that album gets released, it's all we've got is those that handwritten note from Gary Holt saying, track 1, thrash banger, track 2, epic ripper, all of that sort of stuff. There's 9 tracks there. That's going to be released at some point. A Megadeth album is apparently in the can and ready to go whenever things are going to happen for them.
Dark Angel. When an album like that, do we stop everything like we did for Moshing the Roof on, and we say, right, there are 8 tracks on this album or 10 tracks on this album. Who wants to review a track? And we'll feature a track every single day with a member's review of that one track. So we have, let's say, 10 tracks on the album, 10 members, and let's say all us 3 want to do it, and 15 other people want to do it. So that's 18 people. We'll draw out the hat on one of the podcasts, and they'll say, right, you're out the hat, you get track 1. Next one out the hat gets track 2. Next one out the hat gets track 3, so on and so forth. And then we schedule it up. We stop the show maybe a week or 2 after the album is released, so people have a chance to hear it, dissect it, reflect on it, and then put it to the club. And then we can dissect every track, and then we can put the poll up after all 10 or 12 tracks are reviewed. So we get like an important album that was released at that time reviewed, like in real time, I suppose. What do you think of that idea? Are you asking me or Rob?
Stunned silence.
Sorry, I'm listening to it. I was listening to Elton John on my headphones for a minute.
We're not fucking featuring his new album.
There'll be a lot of people, Carl, that only listen to Neil's podcast that'll be thinking, what are these guys on about? A club? What is this club that they're on about? And, this kind of reviewing things. But that's the great thing. If there are people that don't know about it, come over. We're on Facebook. We're a friendly bunch. It's a nice online community. No doubt you must have heard of it. So come over. But I think it's great. I think if it is a show-stopping album, if it is a big album coming up, absolutely, we're going to rule out, the mundane, not mundane, but the kind of not flagship albums, but the like you're saying, it's going to be the next Exodus album. That's a long time coming, so it's going to be a big deal. Absolutely, let's do it.
It shouldn't be one of these albums that he's always pumping out. Yeah. It's the next one by them. It's the next one. It's got to be something that's a bit of an event to make it really work. Because otherwise, especially I reckon going into this year and early next, there's going to be a lot of people who have delayed releases, and you could end up potentially never getting another album in the club because you're always doing another important release, another
showstopper. Yeah, it needs to be an important release for us, definitely. I think Megadeth, what was their last release? 2016, maybe. When was the last Metallica one? I'm thinking of the bigger bands. Acid Rain, possibly. I think would stop the show. Let's say Reanimator. All of a sudden they release an album, we would talk about that, and we would want that to be a showstopper. Just things like that, this is too important to not, we can't ignore it. Yeah, we're going to be talking about it anyway. Let's throw it open to the members. Let's give everyone an opportunity. And to be honest, I'm up for that, and I know Robbie would be up for that, and I think you'd be up for that as well, Neil. You want to be part of that. But to be honest, I think it's we're all part of the same club, and as far as this, we need to draw ourselves out the hat. The only stipulation I take is John Deary, who did put himself forward. He is going to take the pick of the tracks of the next show-stopping album, because I really appreciated him coming forward and volunteering to review those tracks that weren't. And the reasons I've given, though, I didn't ask him to do it because I didn't want him to say, I need them in an hour's time. Are you all right with that? I think that was unfair. So to counteract that unfairness, I would like John Deary to be first out the hat, and he can have his pick of whatever song of whatever show-stopping album that we decide.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's put that in scripture then. We'll do that. The hammer's coming down.
Sold.
Great stuff. So where does that leave us with Moshing the Roof on then? It's made it to the Hall of Fame. It's up there. It's an honorary Hall of Famer.
Yeah, it's in there with mostly Ace of Spades and things like that didn't need a vote.
Yeah, it's 2 times honorary entry. That's not bad going, is it?
I know you know that I feel this way, Neil, and I'm going to speak on behalf of a lot of people, but I think, publicly I'm going to say it. You really need to give yourself a pat on the back, mate, because what you have done, you will have made just one, even if you've just made one person's life a little bit different, which you will have done with the money that you've raised and your endeavours. I think, all kind of plaudits should be on you, because without you, this wouldn't have happened. Obviously the bands are there, but it needed that kind of organisation, and in whatever way you will have made someone's life different, you will have done it. It might be a meal, it might be a bed for the night, it might be moving on to some kind of home situation, I don't know, whatever, but hopefully you will have had a positive impact on someone in that kind of homeless situation. But you've also brought new music to potential new fans of new bands as well, which is fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, and I want to elaborate on that as well, because I think you are definitely, obviously, the centre of the wheel, and the wheel without that centre would just fall apart. It would be hollow. It would be a good idea and nothing else. You have brought that all together and have anchored that beautifully. And I see it that the money that you have raised is like a month's wages for someone that was working in shelter. And I know definitely I agree with Robbie. It's a meal, it's a blanket, it's a this for that homeless person. What I see, it's a worker working for shelter, picking up those wages, and that worker over that course of the months that you have funded that one person has affected hundreds of people's lives for that time, and maybe settle them in a permanent residence, maybe made their life a little bit easier, got them into a rehab situation. Whatever those guys do, you have funded, which has affected hundreds of people, maybe even 200, maybe even thousands. We don't know. But that has made it happen with the contribution you've made.
Thanks. Yeah. No, when you say it like that, it's cool. I don't do it for that reason. I do it because I think it's quite a cool thing to do, and that's that. I'm a gobshite, but that bit's humbling, and yeah, it's cool. Thank you, I appreciate it, and thank you to all the bands, because without them, I've got no talent. I'm just a pain in the arse that organises stuff. But without the bands, it wouldn't happen, because it's just be it needs all of it, the daft idea and the idiot to run around and poke people to do it, but. It is special, and it hopefully it is changing lives and saving lives, and hopefully letting people live a little bit easier and knowing they're not going to be kicked onto the street or anything else.
So before we play out, are you going to give us a grand total like the Blue Peter totalizer back in the day?
Yeah, I'm at an accurate total of £2,104.75p.
Wow, fantastic.
So all pretty good stuff. So I'm as I say, I'm kind of wrapping up now. I'm not gonna bore anyone too much more. The occasional sale goes out the door, but it's kind of it's pretty low key now. And then I'll be, hopefully, providing COVID doesn't do anything bonkers, I'll be at the Acid Rain and Temper Shot gig. Getting absolutely shit. Trying to sell a few more CDs and patches and stuff. And we'll just keep.
Well, I'm going to donate a pint to you on that night. I don't know how that's going to help homeless people. Probably not, but it will probably help you to sell a few more. And we will be hanging around that store, and we have got a plethora of members coming to that, and we will all be hanging around, having a beer, having a chat, and it's going to be a fucking great night. And if you think, I don't know whether, please come down to that Acid Rain show. It's going to be fucking killer.
Yeah, forget what we're doing. Just come down, because it's going to be a killer fucking show, whatever, yeah. Yeah,
it's going to be great. And it's going to be great meeting up with everyone as well. It's all in the same room. It's going to be just be fucking killer. It's going to be so good.
Yeah, because I don't think we've had a big meeting. I think, you know, you didn't show up, but Robbie and I did the Acid Rain launch party. We did Uprising, that there was a few of us, but, you know, there hasn't been that many, unfortunately, because of everything else. There hasn't been as many gigs as we would like where everyone's there. So, you know, that and Bloodstock as well. Hopefully we'll see a load of members at Bloodstock as well.
You got anything to add, Rob? Because I'm dying for a slash and we need to play out. Desperate to hear Thrasherwolf.
Yeah, that's what we're playing out with. Absolutely. I echo with what's been said. It'd be great to see any members that want to join the club and want to get involved. Just search us out on Facebook. Come and join in on the friendly community that we are. And we're going to have some great get-togethers as the live gigs start coming back. Brilliant.
Let's play out then. We're going to play the new Thrasherwolf track, 1,000 Eyes, to close the show. Thanks from us three for joining us, rambling on about fucking music for the last God knows how many hours.
I'm going for a piss.
They are watching my feet as I'm crossing the street, and they don't dare to know who I am. The doctors are